I need a thesis. I mean, one of the things that I think can work, look, let's
Positioning.
distinguish the semiconductor equipment. We got a worldwide shortage. And those companies are sold out, and they can raise price. The companies that we're showing now, they can't raise price. They don't really have, they have high price to sales. We heard some very, Carrie Firestone, who is so good, and I'm so glad you have her on all the time because I just love her. She was talking about the trillions of dollars that is still valued at high price to sales. And I worry about that, Judge, because high price to sales may mean younger investors who could get blown out here. And maybe, I don't want to say that that whole cohort could be a source of funds, but I am saying as between a Twitter or a Lamb, which I like, or Applied Material, versus the CrowdStrike, versus the Zendesk, I struggle with the latter. I think they're great companies, but I think the stocks, even Frank Slootman, I love Snowflake. I think it's great. I'm talking about the company. I don't know if I can get behind the stock. And Eric Yuan is terrific, but they got to do something. They have to do something in Zoom besides just being Zoom.
Right.
And
okay.
I'm not seeing them make the big changes with the cash they have.
So Joe, how do you respond to Jim? Right? If why a CrowdStrike or a Zoom over a Lamb or an AMAT?
Well, first of all, I own Lamb, and I believe in the fundamentals of Lamb, and that's a longer-term holding for me. What I'm speaking to is in the interim positioning. I think positioning is very important. I think positioning mattered at the beginning of this quarter, and certainly positioning mattered when we saw momentum reach its height in the middle of February. Now that you've passed through this rotation that we've experienced, now you're at a point where that allows for the opportunity for a lot of these names just to have a snapback, a little bit of a bounce within an overall bearish trend that they've developed here over the last 6 weeks. But, Scott, that's going to be enough to support all of the indexes and provide a supportive environment going into earnings. That's all I'm trying to highlight.
I mean, Tom Lee, you mentioned him earlier. He thinks the next couple of days you could actually start this big rip higher, in part because of the positioning that, Joe, you're mentioning. Steph, give me something on Lamb, though. You own Lamb Research, and then, Doc, I want you to talk about Applied Materials after that because you own the calls. But you, Steph, first, please.
Yeah, I've owned Lamb for a really long time, and it really is on DRAM recovery, which we've seen. Last quarter, DRAM itself for the company rose 40% sequentially. Now, the other part of the business is NAND. That hasn't recovered. That's the second half of this year's story, and they will benefit. By the way, I think Applied Materials has more NAND exposure than Lamb, so they may benefit even more. But the trends are there, right? I mean, what did I mention? It's data center, it's cloud, it's 5G, right. It's bandwidth. This is all of what's going on in memory, right? And if this analyst at Bernstein is right, and you have wafer fab equipment growth of 19% this year to $75 billion, that's enormous. That is absolutely I have not seen that number yet. But on top of market share, on top of services, on top of better pricing and margins, I think this one and Applied. You can own them both. I happen to just have a big position in Lamb, though.
Understood. John, Applied Materials is yours.
Yeah. Well, Scott, middle of this month, Applied Materials was talking about artificial intelligence and big data. And that's one of the reasons this one's been outperforming like crazy this year. AMAT, you pull up a chart, it doesn't matter if it's a weekly chart or if it's monthly this thing has just been on fire. And that's because of what Jim said as well. They want data, whether it's a Snowflake, whether it's somebody that basically tears apart that data and looks for those little kernels that could be important as far as an investment thesis and so forth. Obviously, for traders, that's huge, but there are so many uses of this big data out there. And it's not just Google and Facebook that are using it. It's virtually every firm. And if AMAT can provide that at better cost and better scale, that's why they're doing what they're doing as far as the stock price, Scott.